Welcome to our video series on more advanced eBay market research techniques. In this video, we'll look at the TeraPeak category trend option. Now, let's take a look at the trend option in the category submenu. In the first place, the information is the same, as you can see. Again, all the categories and subcategories are presented, and there's the color marker next to each one. So red shows whether it's a high value for whatever you've chosen here. So a high value for laptops and notebooks in total sales over the last 7 days. And again, you can change this to 1, 7, or 30 days. And you can see how it compares for total sales, total listings, total sold listings, and so on. And it also lets you know here how the top-level categories are doing. So for total sales, the category clothing, shoes, and accessories is considered to have a high value here. Again, let's go with the example of laptops and notebooks, and you'll see something slightly different this time. It's the same here. We're seeing the subcategories, and again, Dell is the high value. So let's go through to Dell. And okay, this is where things are different. Now it's showing you the trend. Instead of showing you the item, it's showing you the trend. The trend, and we have options here. So we're looking at total sales at the moment, and we're comparing. We're comparing total sales to total sold listings. Then you can choose what time period and how to group it. For example, if we change it from 7-day grouping to 1-day grouping and click the Trend button, and now you can see that the information is presented in quite a different way. There are a lot more peaks and valleys at this level of data, but if we go back to the 7-day grouping, we can see it change back. Okay, it only shows you what's happening every 7 days, so you get smoother lines this way and less change on a day-to-day basis. Let's just make a couple of changes to see what happens. So out of interest, let's do total sales to total sales. And here, of course, you get the same information in the top chart and the bottom chart. This one just isn't as high, so it looks a bit different, but it's the same data. So that's how the information is presented. And you can hold your mouse over it. So, okay, this is showing total sales, and the value here goes from 0 to 100. So the value is what percent of total sales it is compared to the highest value. What percent of total sales is the highest value? So you can see how the trend of total sales has compared over time. 99.61, 90.6, and down here it's 54.81. And there's been an uptrend recently, so it's back up to 70. You can see that it seemed to be doing a lot better in late 2006 and early 2007. Then there was a drop-off here, which stayed for a while. So now let's compare total sales to total listings. Let's see if total listings have gone down or not, and see if that's affected total sales at all. Okay, actually, the total number of auctions has been pretty consistent. There were 80 here, and it went up to 100 there. And at the low point, it went down to 57. But it looks like, as a percentage, it's around 80% of the highest value. And if you match up total sales to this, it matches up fairly closely. You see there's a drop-off there and a drop-off there. So really, looking at it, total sales and total auctions seem to be very much aligned. So those two factors seem to be quite consistent. Let's take a look at total sales and average price. Okay, trend that and see how it looks. And again, there's a lot of matchup between the two. Where there are peaks in one, there are often peaks in the other, although they don't match up exactly. And actually, interestingly, recently total sales are up, but average price, not so much. Okay, you see how this feature of TeraPeak works. So how is this information useful to you, and how can it help you profit more on eBay? Well, it's just another great way to research categories, whether those are categories you're going to be selling in, or thinking of moving existing products into, or you're just thinking of potential categories to start a new part of your business in. Really, what it's telling you is how consistent is the category in the first place. Have sales in the category been consistent over the last 2 years, for example? And of course, you can change the timetable. Of course, I would say that with certain categories, there are going to be peaks at certain times of the year. For example, certain categories, for example, toys, and maybe other categories will show peaks around the holiday period, around Christmas. But during the rest of the year, there might be quite a drop-off. So using this tool allows you to see that clearly. Of course, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see it unless you watched eBay auctions on a day-to-day basis for several months. So this really allows you to see what's been happening on eBay over the last 2 years. Then, that can give you an idea of when is actually a good time to sell, or in this case, how perhaps any time appears to be a good time to sell. Not surprisingly, there's a bit of a drop-off there, but not excessive. But there is a drop-off here just after Christmas, not surprisingly. But still, the numbers are pretty good. 60% of the highest value. It's not as if it's fallen off completely. And that's interesting to note. So, perhaps at that time, fewer laptops are purchased for business and more are purchased as presents. Something to consider. So really, using this feature, you can see how the sell-through rate has changed over time, how bids per listing have changed over time, and you may find some very consistent categories. And those are obviously good to sell to, because those markets aren't going anywhere if they aren't particularly affected by trends and aren't particularly seasonal. So this can be very useful intelligence on how you can expect buyers, or let's say the sales patterns of buyers, to behave in certain categories. So you can choose whether you actually want to sell to them, and if you do sell to them, it might well help explain why your auctions might do better at certain times than at others.